ॐ ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। ॐ श्रीकृष्ण परमात्मने नमः। अथ श्रीमद्भगवद्गीता त्रयोदशोऽध्यायः क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञविभागयोगः। श्रीभगवानुवाच अमानित्वमदम्भित्वम् अहिंसा क्षान्तिरार्जवम् आचार्योपासनं शौचं स्थैर्यमात्मविनिग्रहः इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अनहङ्कार एव च जन्म मृत्युजरा व्याधिः दुःखदोषानुदर्शनम् असक्तिरनभिष्वङ्गः पुत्रदारगृहादिषु नित्यं च समचित्तत्वम् इष्टानिष्टोपपत्तिषु मयि चानन्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्यभिचारिणी विविक्तदेशसेवित्वम् अरतिर्जनसंसदि अध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वम् तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतज्ज्ञानमिति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानं यततोऽन्यथा ज्ञेयं यत्तत् प्रवक्ष्यामि यज्ञात्वामृतमश्नुते अनादिमत्परं ब्रह्म न सत्तन्नासदुच्यते सर्वतः पाणिपादं तत् सर्वतो शिशिरोमुखं सर्वतः श्रुतिमल्लोके सर्वमावृत्य तिष्ठति। ओम तत्सत्। Just give me a minute. Jai Gurudev. Dr. Savita, how are you placed to read for some time?
Yes, I'll read. From which page do I have to read?
1 minute. Let me tell you where we stopped yesterday.
Uh, uh, Shloka number 12.
No, not Shloka 12.
We were doing 11th Shloka, and I think we were in the midst of it. I don't remember which page.
Yeah, maybe we can start from the 11th and then continue.
Okay, 11th Shloka.
Yeah. Adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam etad jnanamiti proktam ajnanam yatatonyata.
Right.
So I will share screen. I would
Yes.
request if you can just read this, for some
Yeah.
time.
Sure.
I can read the Sanskrit transliteration and then you can continue with the PDF.
Okay. Okay.
Adhyatma jnana nityatvam, always dwelling upon knowledge centered on the self. Tattva jnana arthadarsh. I think this Mirinal read yesterday. Keeping in view the purpose of knowledge of the truth. Etad jnanamiti. This is knowledge. Proktam, told. Ajnanam, ignorance. Yat anyatha. What is opposite? Ataha, to this. Always dwelling upon knowledge centered on the self, keeping in view the purpose of knowledge of the truth. All this that was told is the means to knowledge. What is opposite to this is ignorance. Yeah, I will let you continue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. The real means for moksha, Adhyatma Jnana Nityatva. Adhyatma Jnana is knowledge centered on the self, Atma Vishya Jnana. It can refer to knowledge of one's body, prana, mind, or as it is here, Pratyag Atma. Pratyag Atma, which is Satchitananda. Here it refers to the knowledge that Atma is Brahman. This knowledge comes only through the Shastra. Therefore, Pramana Pravritti, that is, operating the Pramana, is necessary. Therefore, in the discussion of Jnana sadhanas, after enumerating the values and attitudes necessary for preparing the mind, this sadhana of Pramana Pravritti is mentioned. Even if one has all the qualities like amanitva, etc., Adhyatma Jnana Nityatva in the form of Shastra Patana with the help of the teacher is necessary. Excuse me. Here, this Shastra Patana is referred to as Adhyatma Jnana Nityatva and is mentioned as Jnana Sadhana. The pursuit is thus well defined. There is no room for vagueness here. And the word Nityatva has the meaning of Niratattva here. Niratattva means being constantly engaged in something with total commitment. The Shruti says, Punha Punyena Sarvanam Kuryad. It is Shravanam.
Paunaha punyena Shravanam kuryat.
Yeah, Shravana Kuryat. Right. Shravana has to be done repeatedly. Each time it becomes clearer and clearer. There is a growing clarity. That is why the topic of Jnana Sadhana is not complete without the mention of this Adhyatma Jnana Nityatva. The qualities like Amanitva, etc., will make you a mature, complete person, and having these is an accomplishment in itself. But knowledge is required for moksha. And that knowledge is gained only through the Shastra Patana with the help of the teacher. Understanding this and having a value for this and being constantly engaged in this Shastra Patna is what is meant by Adhyatma Jnana Nityatva. Thus, the one whose attention is directed constantly towards the knowledge of this Atma, which is Brahman, has Adhyatma Jnana Nityatva. He is always engaged in Shravana or Manana or Nididhyasana. He exposes himself to the teaching, analyzes his understanding in the group discussions with peers, and share what he has learned with others who want to know. Tat chintanam, tat kathanam, anyonam, aniyonam, tat prabodhanam. That is the traditional pastime of one who wants to gain clear knowledge of Atma. The process of repeated dwelling upon this vidya does not have an effect, even though the content of the first lesson is also that of the last. The first lesson is that you are Brahman, as is the last, and all the lessons in between. It never changes. Constant exposure and thinking about this vidya is required. That is why we have so much literature on this subject. Our predecessors who had Adhyatma Jnana Nityatva went on writing text after text as a sadhana, just to keep themselves exposed to the knowledge. Besides this, there is the vast literature of those who knew and were moved to write for our benefit. Thus, we have enough material to spend as much time with the teaching as we require. Even though the pramana works immediately, not gradually, we do see a growing clarity as we spend more and more time exposed to the teaching. The fruit of this Adhyatma Jnana is Adhyatma Jnana Nishtha. Shankara does not say much on this, but he does say that while the values like amanitva are the means for jnana, the knowledge of the truth, tattva jnana, is the means for maturity. When these values are in place, Vedanta Shastra will give the knowledge, and because of Vedanta Shastra, the values also become mature and the knowledge fructifies. Because of this reciprocal, pardon, my voice is echoing, I think. Is it?
Father, I had started that talk. So.
Okay. Shankara does not say much on this, but he does say that while the values like amanitva are the means for jnana, the knowledge of the truth, tattva jnana, is the means for maturity. When these values are in place, Vedanta Shastra will give the knowledge, and because of Vedanta Shastra, the values also become mature and the knowledge fructifies. Because of this reciprocal relationship, there is increasing clarity. As one matures in the values, the knowledge becomes clearer, and as the knowledge becomes clearer, one gains maturity in terms of values. They are like two wings of the same bird. Does anyone want repetition, or I continue because we have already read this. Tattva Jnana Artha Darshana. Tattva Jnana Artha Darshana constantly keeping moksha in view. This Adhyatma Jnana Nityatva, the total commitment to the pursuit of the knowledge, can be there only if Tattva Jnana Artha Darshana is present. Tattva Jnana is the Atma Jnana, the knowledge of the truth of the self. Tasya Artha, its result, or Phala is Moksha, the total freedom from all sense of limitations. Tasya darshanam is seeing very clearly that result, that is, keeping in view this total freedom that can be gained as a result of this tattva jnana. If this result phala of tattva jnana, the infinite freedom, is kept in view, then to put in the required effort towards gaining the qualities like amanitva, etc., is not difficult. All these values and qualities will become very natural, and even if some of them are lacking, gaining them will not seem difficult because the end in view is well worth the effort. This is very clear to the person. This is Tattva Jnana Artha Darshana. Thus, Tattva Jnana Artha Darshana is nothing but mumukshutva. And this Tattva Jnana Artha Darshana creates jignasa. It is jigyasa, basically in Hindi, jigyasa in the seeker. Amanitva, etc. are also meant for the same thing. But Amanitva, etc. culminates in Tattva Jnana Artha Darshana. And then Tattva Jnana Artha Darshana culminates in Tattva Jnana. And one gains moksha, which is in the form of cessation of samsara. This is said in so many words by Shankara. There's a Sanskrit amanitva donam jnana sadhakanam bhavana paripak nimittam tattva jnanam tasya artha moksha sansaro paramah tasya alechanam tattva jnanartha darshanam. This is said in so many words by Shankara when he says, when the amanitva, etc. are cultivated adequately, bhavana paripaka, bhavana paripaka, the required degree of maturity of the disposition is gained by the person. And this bhavana paripaka is hetu nimitta, cause for tattva jnana. And the artha, result of that tattva jnana, is moksha samsara uparama, cessation of samsara. Repeatedly seeing this fact and again bringing this fact to the forefront whenever the mind seems to serve away from this pursuit is called darshana alochana here. The end is never kept away from view. This is the final and the most important of all the jnana sadhana listed in this section, because when there is this constant dwelling on the value of pursuit, the seriousness involved there is great commitment towards gaining the other values like amanitva, etc. I'll repeat this line. This is the final and the most important of all the jnana sadhana listed in this section, because when there is this constant dwelling on the value of pursuit, the seriousness involved there There is great commitment towards gaining the other values like amanitva, etc. The commitment to the pursuit of the knowledge through Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana also increases, and one is ready to do anything and everything that is necessary. This desire for liberation has to be kept in view because there are so many other desires in life that can consume your time and energy. Care must be taken to see that moksha is never lost sight of. By continuing to analyze what you are really seeking so that the secondary things do not overwhelm the primary one. Summing up, Bhagwan says, this which has been told, etat paroktam, beginning from amanitva to tattva jnana artha darshana, is jnana. They are called jnana individually and together as a group because they are means for jnana. All of them embellish the anthakarna and form an indirect means for tattva jnana. The values and attitudes that are opposed to these are called ajnana. So Bhagwan will be talking about the qualities which are ajnana. Having said it positively, he restates it in the negative. The opposite of this is ignorance, ajnana, yad ato nayatha. The word anyatha has the meaning of that which is opposed to, rather than other than, because there are some good qualities which are not mentioned like compassion, daya, friendliness, maitri, etc. The opposites are manitva, dambhitva, himsa, akshanti, etc. These are not the means to knowledge and are to be negated. The values like amanitva cannot be cultivated because they are the nature of yourself. It is a matter of removing manitva, etc. It is not that we develop ahimsa, but that we remove the tendency for himsa. Shankara says they are to be removed because they are the cause for the pursuit of samsara. Just look at a person who does not care for these values. He cannot escape from a tendency to hurt. Even a poor butterfly will be destroyed just because it has entered his living room. He wants the whole world to behave according to his dictates. This is akshanti. And there is no integrity in his life. This is anarjva. He does all sort of things that are not to be done and is impelled indiscriminately into various sense pursuits by his likes and dislikes. This is asthirya. He does not learn from difficulties in life but complains about them ceaselessly. He is deeply possessive of his wife, son, car, carpet, hair, etc. His mind is buffeted about by the ups and downs of his life, and he is devoted to money or power, not Bhagwan, and he is always in clubs, theaters, etc., constantly seeking attention and company because he is not able to be with himself. Even if he goes to the countryside, he will take a few people with him. This is a very sad state of affairs. To understand the value of maturity, even without the desire to know Atma, is a great blessing. Eventually, that desire will arise in a mature mind because these qualities are the cause for a natural withdrawal from samsara. By these qualifications, which are also called jnana, what is that is to be known? Gneya. These various behavioral norms alone do not constitute knowledge in that what is to be known cannot be known by them because they do not reveal a particular object. They are all attributes of the antakarna. Further, by a piece of knowledge of which the object is pot, another object like fire is not known. Thus, what is to be known is not known by knowing the values like amanitva. So how can they is some mistake here. Thus, what is to be known is not known by knowing the values like amanitva. So, how can they be called jnana? Shankara answers that they are a cause for jnana because the mind endowed with all these virtues will be able to gain this knowledge. The maker and the material are the two main causes in any creation. Beside these two, there are instruments employed like the wheel in making a pot. They are aids in knowing pramana. In knowing, pramana is the main cause, and these values are aids. Now he has to tell what is to be known, Gneya. So I have a query like the about that Akshanti, the butterfly comes in. So I was relating it with the mosquitoes which enter our rooms and they disturb us and we see to it that we kill them. And is it the Akshanti we are doing? Because they are the source of disease, of course, the not disease for illness, and
I think here we
of
have to
course when
be wise, isn't it? I think it is not just the question of being um, exercising akshanti, but it is to preserve your body because
yeah
ultimately through the body only you can attain moksha. So there, I think you need to. I mean, if there is a because self-preservation is important.
yes, every day, but when I before sleeping I uh, this with this this type of racket, that electric which is charged by electricity, I kill mosquito, but every time I have thought, what am I doing this, why I am doing this. The guilt comes, no, why I am killing. And if you don't kill, then they don't let you sleep. So I sleep in a mosquito net, but other people don't sleep. So daily this guilt comes before sleeping that I am killing these mosquitoes, and on a daily basis it comes. So it was just I was relating it with this paragraph. It is to kill any living being, well, either it is a insect or an animal. You have your heart does like your atma does tell you like this is not right. So but still we do um, like this. It is a small thing, but if you think from the side of an insect, then you have killed him, no. So the soul resides in the mosquito also. So daily basis, I get this guilt before sleeping. And I don't know, but I still do. Yeah.
Quite interesting. I think it's because you're so sensitive that you are able to even feel that pinch of doing it.
Yeah. My heart keeps on telling, what am I doing? It is not right. And still I have to do. So that in that dilemma, that mind remains for a period of time. So, but that sadness comes when you kill someone, no? So it happens on daily basis. But I prefer that I sleep in mosquito net. I don't kill them in my room. But other people don't sleep with mosquito net. They find it more stuffing type. So, and last 2 years back, my husband got dengue. So I try to clean their rooms so that nobody get ill.
Even for cockroaches also, we feel that, no?
Yeah, any living
Living,
being.
yes.
You
But
feel
those are all insect. It is a part of nature. Once I think I heard from Guruji, bless them and think that you are giving moksha to them.
relieving them. This
Relieving them. That's
is a
also
human mind. This is a human mind, no tricky mind that
pretty
plays
mind.
now.
No, but
Yes.
we are dealing with mind only now here.
Yeah, we have to have that sameness of mind.
Right.
For that, you have to give an explanation.
Because feeling guilty is very, very torturing, and you are torturing the self. So it's a nature, and therefore there are so many insects, actually insects inside the body also. This antibiotics so we can't help it. It is a nature. We have to live with it.
Shall I continue?
Yeah, I think, see here, it is, there is one very beautiful Subhashitani that, and the gist of it is, for the sake of the uh, the family, you will have to sacrifice the person who's doing wrong. For the sake of the village, you'll have to sacrifice that family which is wrong. And for the sake of the country, you'll have to sacrifice that village which is like you'll have to cordon off the village if that there is some disease or something happening there. So similarly, I think this is all about priority. Here, it is only through the body that you can attain moksha. So preserving your body, which is what we are doing, isn't it? And like Sureshi rightly pointed out, there are so many bacteria in the body, germs, for instance, and the pathogenic bacteria for which we use antibiotics. Isn't that a way of, when you extrapolate killing of mosquitoes to killing of these bacteria with an antibiotic? So that way it is to preserve the self, preserve the body. For what reason? Priority is to attain moksha. So in order to do that, I think it is acceptable. And you look at it from that perspective. Like, for instance, if you're confronted with a snake right in front of you, what would you do? Would you say, oh, I'm going to exercise Shanti and then accept whatever? No. Your reflex behavior is protect yourself. So spontaneously you protect yourself. So anything that is spontaneous, I think is fine. If it is coming from a malicious intent, then see, you're not going around killing all the mosquitoes in the whole society. You're just doing it within your house. I mean, I don't know whether this train of thought is right, but I think it is
And we are not doing with dvesha, you know.
Mm.
That is more important. We are not hating them. We are protecting ourselves.
Remember in some of the videos where Gurudev is, I think, Ashtavakra Gita or something, there is a fly or something that goes on, coming on and off, on. Very gently, how he says, okay, now enough, you go away.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
he's not doing it out of anger or irritation. Like, enough, that's it now, go away. That was very inspiring, the way he did it. So similarly, I think,
Yes, yes. I still remember it.
But it's a good point you brought out, and how we deal with it is important. Anything that is harming your body, self-preservation, that I think you're allowed to protect yourself in order to.
Your dharma to protect.
Yeah, your dharma is to protect your body. So therefore, it doesn't become adharmic or exercising akshanti.
Yeah, now it is quite instilled in my mind. Like I would not have the guilt now.
Maybe when you're doing that, you can chant this one, Mrityunjaya mantra, Trambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam. So at least that's a little Tat Shanti for us, some prayashchittas, things like that. So that's fine. But it's an indication of how sensitive you are, which is good. But again, coming out of understanding. See, when you're doing anything out of viveka, then it is quite relieving. It is very liberating, isn't it? Shall I chant the verse? ज्ञेयं यत्तत् प्रवक्ष्यामि यज्ञात्वामृतमश्नुते अनादिमत्परं ब्रह्म न सत्तन्नासदुच्यते. ज्ञेयं यत्, what is to be known, tat pravakshyami, that I will tell clearly, yat jnatva, knowing which, amritam, deathlessness, ashnute, one gains, anadim, that which is no beginning, param, limitless, tat brahma, that brahman, nasat, is not existent as an object, na asat, and not non-existent, ujyate, is said. ज्ञेयं यत् तत् प्रवक्ष्यामि यत् ज्ञात्वा अमृतम् अश्नुते अनादिं परं तत् ब्रह्म न सत् न असत् उच्यते. What is to be known, that I will tell clearly, knowing which one gains deathlessness. That Brahman, which it is said has no beginning, is limitless, neither existent as an object nor non-existent. I think Dr. Savita is, I think, off the. Yeah. Is anybody able to read? I will just share screen for some time. Are you able to hear me, all of you?
Shall I read?
Yeah, please.
What is to be known is Brahman. Neya, what is to be known is Brahman. Although any object to be known is anybody? I think Savita has joined.
Yeah, the Zoom link went away. So
I
Okay.
I don't know.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm just responding to your message there, but yeah, maybe we don't
yeah.
know.
Okay, you can start reading. Your voice is very sweet.
No, my voice is not at all sweet. I have a very, it's not sweet. Okay.
Okay, I've muted everyone. You can unmute yourself, Dr. Savita.
Okay. Okay. So you
Sometimes
have read the shloka?
subconsciously someone is unmuted, so that might disturb. I've read the shloka, so
Okay.
you
I have to read from what is known as, what
yeah,
is to be known is
yeah.
Brahman, right?
Let me
Okay.
just read this one more time. 1 second. ज्ञेयं यत्तत् प्रवक्ष्यामि यज्ञात्वामृतमश्नुते अनादिमत्परं ब्रह्म न सत्तन्नासदुच्यते. What is to be known, that I will tell clearly, knowing which one gains deathlessness. That Brahman, which it is said has no beginning, is limitless, neither existent as an object nor non-existent.
Okay. What is to be known as Brahman? Jnaya, what is to be known is Brahman. Although any object to be known is called Jnaya in the context and also from the standpoint of what is really to be known and what really can be known, Jnaya here is Brahman. That Bhagwan says, I will tell you clearly. There are varieties of things to be known in this world, but knowing this, one gains deathlessness, um, um, amritam ashnute. This restricts the meaning of Gnaya to Brahman. Deathlessness here means not just freedom from death, but freedom from the cycle of birth and death. Though this body will die, there will be no rebirth and consequently no death. Only the one who dies can be reborn, but the one who is eternal, the Atma, will not die. If knowing this, there is freedom from birth and death, what is known, Gnaya, must be beyond the scope of time, eternal. But if you know an eternal, if you know, you can change the page. But if you know an eternal object other than yourself, how will you be free from death? By knowing something eternal, you do not become eternal. If by knowing something you are to gain deathlessness, that something can only be yourself. Atma happens to be eternal, and knowing that, you discover that you are eternal. One need not consult anyone to know what one exists, to know that one exists. Sorry. In my understanding, I am a mortal, and in the vision of the Shruti, I am eternal. The difficulty here is that the one thing everybody knows is Atma. There is no need to consult anybody about your whereabouts or your existence. But what you know about yourself is the opposite of what is said here. You know yourself as mortal. You do not seek the help of the Shastra to establish that you exist, as you do to help you establish whether there is a heaven or not. Shastra just establishes that Atma alone is eternal. In the next line, he says, how Atma is eternal, that is, free from death, Amrita. What is Gneya is Anaditmat. Anaditmat, it has no beginning. Anadimat, right? It has no beginning. What has no beginning needs not have no end. But here it is para, limitless, and therefore without end also. It is absolutely free from time. In other words, eternal. That Brahma is to be known as Atma, and this Param Brahma, he tells us further, is Nasat, not an existent thing, and Tat na Asat, nor existent. All our cognitions are in terms of it is or it is not. My hand is, but the pot on it is not. If it is something absolutely non existent, like the man's horn, there is no purpose in saying it is Gneya and then giving a description of it. If it is something absolutely non existent, like a man's horn, there is no purpose in saying it is Gneya and then giving a description of it. That I cannot know and need not know. Brahman is neither Sat
repeat
nor
this paragraph one more time.
I was also thinking to repeat. Yeah. One need not consult anyone to know that one exists. In my understanding, I am a mortal, and in the vision of the Shruti, I am eternal. The difficulty here is that the one thing everybody knows is Atma. There is no need to consult anybody about your whereabouts or your existence. But what you know about yourself is the opposite of what is said here. You know yourself as mortal. You do not seek the help of the Shastra to establish that you exist, as you do to help you establish whether there is a heaven or not. This line is a bit confusing. What does it imply? Shastra just establishes that Atma alone is eternal. In the next line, he says, how Atma is eternal, that is, free from death, Amrita. What is Gneya is Anadimat. It has no beginning. What has no beginning need not have no end. But here it is para, limitless, and therefore without end also. It is absolutely free from time. In other words, eternal. That Brahma is to be known as Atma, and this Param Brahma, he tells us further, is Nasat, not an existent thing, and Tat na Asat, nor non existent. All our cognitions are in terms of it is or it is not. My hand is, but the pot on it is not. If it is something absolutely non existent, like a man's horn, there is no purpose in saying it is Gneya and then giving a description of it. That I cannot know and need not know. Still, it is not very clear to me. If you can explain it, Dr. Brahmara, or we
Can I
read
can
further?
we just read it one more time?
Yeah, sure.
Can I read it?
One need not consult. Should I read from the beginning this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
What
take
is
over.
to be known?
Sorry, Jai Gurudev. I can take over, Dr. Savita.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
I will just read from this part. What is to be known is Brahman. Jnaya, what is to be known is Brahman. Although any object to be known is called Jnaya, in the context and also from the standpoint of what is really to be known and what really can be known, Jnaya here is Brahman. That Bhagavan says, I will tell you clearly. There are varieties of things to be known in this world, but knowing this, one gains deathlessness. Amritam Ashnate. This restricts the meaning of Jnaya to Brahman. Deathlessness here means not just freedom from death, but freedom from the cycle of birth and death. Though this body will die, there will be no rebirth and consequently no death. Only the one who dies can be reborn. The Atma will not die. If knowing this, there is freedom from birth and death, what is known, Jnaya, must be beyond the scope of time, eternal. I'll repeat this. So, deathlessness here does not mean just freedom from death, but freedom from the cycle of birth and death. Though this body will die, there will be no rebirth and consequently no death. Only the one who dies can be reborn, but the one who is eternal, the Atma, will not die. If knowing this, there is freedom from birth and death, what is known, Jnaya, must be beyond the scope of time, eternal. But if you know an eternal object other than yourself, how will you be free from death? By knowing something eternal, you do not become eternal. If by knowing something you are to gain deathlessness, that's something yourself. Atma happens to be eternal, and knowing that, you discover that you are eternal. So by knowing something eternal, the fact that Atma is eternal, that you are eternal, is known because only then can you be free from the cycle of birth and death. But if you know an eternal object other than yourself, how will you be free from death? By knowing something eternal, you do not become eternal. If by knowing something you are to gain deathlessness, that something can only be yourself. Atma happens to be eternal, and knowing that, you discover that you are eternal.
So it is the after having that knowledge about, and of course that antakarna attributes what already mentioned. Just saying that you know that Atma is eternal, but just knowing this much is not sufficient to to gain that deathlessness. Is it this is what is implied?
No, you should
That
know
is-
that you should know that you are Atma.
Yeah, that that
That
knowledge
that
you
is
should
must.
have. Just saying
That
that Atma is eternal is not sufficient, and you will not become eternal.
you should know that you are Atma. That knowledge has to be there.
That knowledge is to be there. Yeah, that is to be gained by the Shastra and our own like preparedness have to be done. Like, right.
and also there cannot be two eternal things, right? Eternal is only something that is absolute. So by knowing something that is eternal, you don't become eternal. Because then that eternal does not include you. So, like, it's not like I see the sky, so the sky is different from me. The sky is vast, infinite, but is expansive, but I don't become the sky because I'm seeing that. So therefore, going by that logic, if by knowing something you are to gain deathlessness, that something can only be yourself. Atma happens to be eternal, and knowing that, you discover that you are eternal. One need not consult anyone to know that one exists. In my understanding, I am a mortal. And in the vision of the Shruti, I am eternal. The difficulty here is that the one thing everybody knows is Atma. There is no need to consult anybody about your whereabouts or your existence. But what you know about yourself is the opposite of what is said here. You know yourself as mortal. You do not seek the help of the Shastra to establish that you exist, as you do, to help you establish whether there is a heaven or not. So we go to the Shastra to help us establish whether there is a heaven or not. But you don't need the help of the Shastra to establish whether you exist or not. Shastra just establishes that Atma alone is eternal. In the next line, he says, how Atma is eternal, that is, free from death, Amrita. What is Jnaya is Anadimat, it has no beginning. What has no beginning need not have no end. But here it is para, limitless, and therefore without end also. See here, if you remember, what has no beginning? Ignorance has no beginning, but it has an end, right? So that is what Swamiji is mentioning here. It is not, it has no beginning, anadimat. It is also para, limitless, and therefore without end also. It is absolutely free from time. In other words, eternal. That Brahma is to be known as Atma. And this Param Brahma, he tells us further, is na sat, not an existent thing, and tat na asat, nor non-existent. All our cognitions are in terms of it is or it is not. My hand is, but the pot on it is not. If it is something absolutely non-existent, like a man's horn, there is no purpose in saying it is Jnaya and then giving a description of it. That I cannot know and need not know. I think if we read further, we'll be able to get a little bit of clarity. But let me know if any one of you wants a repeat of this.
Only that last sentence, little confusing.
I will read this. In the next line, he says, how Atma is eternal, that is free from death, Amrita. What is Jnaya is Anadimat. It has no beginning. What has no beginning need not have no end. But here it is para, limitless, and therefore without end also. It is absolutely free from time. In other words, eternal. That Brahma is to be known as Atma. And this Param Brahma, he tells us further, is na sat, not an existent thing. And tat na asat, nor non-existent. All our cognitions are in terms of it is or it is not. My hand is, but the pot on it is not. If it is something absolutely non-existent, like a man's horn, there is no purpose in saying it is jnaya and then giving a description of it. That I cannot know and need not know. So the whole point is he's talking of jnaya, isn't it? Jnaya here is that knowing which you will attain deathlessness, amrita. So he's saying it is not something which is absolutely not existent, like the man's horn. So therefore it is na sat, na asat. Na sat and tat na asat. It is not a non-existent thing, nor is it non-existent. If it is absolutely non-existent, like the man's horn, then there is no point in calling it jnaya. It will not be called jnaya, isn't it? There is no need for you to know that. Something which is absolutely non-existent. So it has qualities of both, being non-existent as well as not non-existent. I think we'll read further. Brahman is neither Sat nor Asat. If it is neither Sat nor Asat, it can only be myself. Therefore, he says it is not non-existent, na Asat. By saying it is not Sat, all existent objects are negated, and we are made to understand that this is not an object. Shankara says, neither Sat nor Asat apply here because it is not an object for which there is a cognition attended by I or is not. I will repeat this. Therefore, he says it is not non-existent, na asat. Why? Because Brahma is neither Sat nor Asat. If it is neither Sat nor Asat, it can only be myself. Therefore, he says it is not non-existent, na Asat. By saying it is not Sat, all existent objects are negated. And we are made to understand that this is not an object. Shankara says, neither Sat nor Asat apply here because it is not an object for which there is a cognition attended by either is or is not. Atma is not an object that your senses or mind can objectify. If it is there is nothing for you to know. But since he says, na Asat, you have to give it some thought. It is very clear that the only thing left is you. Everything in the entire creation is either an object that is or is not, both of which are known to you. If what is to be known is neither, all that remains is the one who says it is or it is not. This is very profound. See, it is very clear that the only thing left is you. Atma is not an object that your senses or mind can objectify. If it is merely na sat, there is nothing for you to know. Like that a man's horn. Man's horns are non-existent, so there's nothing for you to know. But since he says na asat, it is not non-existent. You have to give it some thought. It is very clear that the only thing left is you. So wonderfully, he's brought it bringing it out, saying it is not an object for you to cognize outside of you. Neither, therefore, it is existent nor non-existent. And therefore, it cannot be anything but you. Everything in the entire creation is either an object that is or is not, both of which are known to you. If what is to be known is neither, all that remains is the one who says it is or it is not. Let me know if you want a repeat of this paragraph.
This means ultimately it concludes that you are Atma.
Correct.
That's
You are
that
what you're
means,
seeking.
he is tending towards it. How that Atma is you. That was what is explained.
He's proving that. The way
Proving
he's
that.
going around, he's proving that. Like
Proving
how we,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
Means nothing is left unless that is you only.
Which is what he's saying. That is what it is
That's
called Jnaya. Jnaya is what is to be known.
only.
Because what we know is that in my understanding, I am a mortal. But in the vision of the Shruti, I am eternal. So therefore, you need to know. In that sense, you need to know. But what is to be known is nothing but you. It is not outside of you. You cannot objectify it. It is you. It is only that the veil of ignorance has to be removed.
And so it is like as Nana explained in one of these Ratnakram classes, he said that moksha is not to be obtained, it is to be known. So it is like that. You have to know.
Correct. That the self-evident Atma is Brahman is known by Shabda Pramana alone. Gaining this knowledge, one gains freedom from death. Amrit Tattvam Ashnute. The self-evident Atma, which is not the object of the cognition, it is or it is not, is presented here as Brahman, the cause of creation. This fact, though it cannot be known through the sense organs, etc., is revealed by the Shastra, which is independent means of knowledge in the form of words. If it is beyond the senses, etc., and yet it has to be known, how am I to know it? If it is beyond the senses, etc., and yet it has to be known, how am I to know it? Shabda is the pramana, and though it operates in the mind, because that is where all knowledge takes place, the mind alone cannot arrive at it, since it is not an object of inference. The Shruti through Shabda creates the vritti in the buddhi, which removes the ignorance of Atma being Brahman. It is not like a pot which is available for both is and is not cognitions. It is the subject which happens to be Brahman and is revealed as such by the Shastra, and therefore Jnaya. It is to be known because with that one gains freedom from death, amritam ashnute. Though it is neither sat nor asat, because it is not an object of inference or perception, still it is to be known, and for that we have Shabda Pramana. An objection can be raised that even Shruti says it is beyond the known and unknown. Tat viditat ato aviditat adhi. That means, that is from Kenopanishad. So how can it be Jnaya when what I have to know, knowing which I am free, cannot be known, nor is it unknown? How can I ever know? Shankara says, It is like someone who, having begun a yajnashala to perform a ritual to go to another world, reads in the Shastra, is there another world or not? Similarly, Shruti says that there is something to be known and then says it is neither known, vidita, nor unknown, avidita. Shankara answers such sentences are committed to showing the definite meaning, whereas sentences like, is there another world or not, are statements that are parts of an injunction. All words, he continues, are meant to reveal some sense. When the words are heard by the listener, he is able to recognize an object, which is revealed by the word as belonging to a certain category of objects, jati, an action, kriya, an attribute, guna, or a relationship, sambandha. The word cow, for example, reveals a species, cooks, an action, white, an attribute, and cattle owner, a relationship. Brahman is not any of these. It does not belong to a species, and therefore you cannot say it is or it is not. It is free from attributes, nirguna, and undergoes no change to perform an action. It is nishkriya. Nor is it connected to anything because it itself is not an object, and there is no second thing to which it can connect. When this is the nature of what has to be explained, what words will you use? It is neither sat nor asat. It cannot
Beautiful.
be it cannot be revealed by any particular word, and that is why Shruti says, from which words return, having not reached. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. This is from the Taittiriya Upanishad. Taittiriya Upanishad, yeah. Having made their attempt and finding it is not possible, words become silent. Where words fail, the mind can appreciate certain things like emotions. But here, along with the words, the mind returns, manasa saha. To know the Atma, the mind has to reverse itself. When it turns towards Atma, it disappears in the sense that the mind is nothing but vrittis, and the vritti with which Atma is known has no form, akhandakara vritti. The mind itself cannot make an attempt to know Atma, nor can it know the qualities of Atma, because the mind is Atma. To destroy the ignorance about Atma, you require a simple vritti, which itself goes away having dispelled the ignorance. That vritti is created by the Vedanta Vakya. Thus, when it says, na sat tat, na asat, there is no contradiction. Though the negation is complete with this, still positively it has to be revealed. Yeah, this is, I think, I will just read this little part.
Beautiful argument. So beautiful.
Brahman is the causal upadhi of all beings. Shankara introduces the next verse saying, when it is not an object of the word sat, as a pot is, there can be a doubt that it is non-existent. To remove that doubt, he shows the existence of that which is to be known, Jnaya, by saying that it is the causal upadhi of all beings. I think we'll stop here. Maybe tomorrow we'll repeat this part one more time before we go to the 13th shloka. We can all close our eyes and reflect on what we have learned and understood. We'll just chant the verses that we did today. Adhyatma-jnana-nityatvam tattva-jnanartha-darshanam etad-jnanamiti proktam ajnanam yatatonyatha. Always dwelling upon knowledge centered on the self, keeping in view the purpose of knowledge of the truth. All this that was told is the means to knowledge. What is opposite to this is ignorance. Jneyam yat tatra vakshyami yat jnatvam anadimat param brahma na sattanna saduchyate. What is to be known, that I will tell clearly, knowing which one gains deathlessness. That Brahman, which it is said has no beginning, is limitless, neither existent as an object nor non-existent. Yeah, let's close our eyes. Jai Gurudev. Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam. So that is how these two are connected, how the values that he has given, that Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam, Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam, Etad Jnanamiti Proktam Ajnanam Yatatonyatha. So everything else is Ajnana, is ignorance, whereas only that these attitudes and values which make the Antakarana mature are Jnana. And that is what Shankara says. All these values, amanitva, dambitva, himsa, kshanti, arjavam, they are considered jnana because they make the antakarana mature. And then there is the thought, the evolution happens as to what is, you are constantly thinking of this tattva jnana. But that alone is not moksha, is not considered moksha. You have that tattva jnanartha darshanam will ultimately lead you to moksha. It will pave way for that.
See, it will release the knots which we have in that heart chakra, he told, no?
Yeah.
So when we do pranayama and all that, the knots become loose and they become straight. Slowly, slowly, the knots will go and you will become Narayana only.
That again, it is not only with practice of pranayama.
Practice,
All this
yes.
will help.
Well,
They of
yes,
course
the
will help.
knowledge of yes.
But ultimately, you have that Shastra Pramana has to be there, which is what
Yeah.
comes in the next verse, when he says, the Shastra says you're eternal, but what you understand yourself to be as mortal.
Immortal.
So, why? And then the Shastra says, the beautiful verse, I think this Nasattanna Saduchyate, this 12th verse is very, very beautiful.
Beautiful, yes.
Where is that?
What was the objection raised in this shloka 13? I could not follow. Not 13, sorry, 12 only. The objection raised, like we know that what is Gneya, but the objection I could not follow. What is the objection raised?
The objection.
It is not Sat and it is not Asat, both.
See, he gives the example of the man's horns, which is not existent. So if it is not existent, then what is the point of knowing it? Then it will not be called Gneya, right? So it is not non-existent. Neither is it existent. Where is that? 1 minute. Yeah. So it is neither Sat nor Asat. It can only be myself.
Means how it is by arguing this.
See, the thing is, if anything which is existent in our understanding has death, isn't it?
Its object.
Anything that we see as an existent object ultimately disappears, vanishes. At the same time, it is also not non-existent. Which means what? That person, that not, I can't even say that person, that whatever we are describing has to be me. Has to be me, because I am the one saying it. I am the one saying it is Sat, na Sat, na Tat, na Asat. So
Therefore,
that has something which is
don't
beyond
include yourself in that.
Correct.
When you say that,
yeah,
you don't include in that, like that counting business, no?
Correct. The
12th man, 13th man, or
man.
something.
Correct.
Means
so
you are seeing it as an object.
Perceiver.
Oh, so beautiful. So beautiful.
See, who is it? See, this is where, if you remember, what Buddha says, everything is shunya. Everything is, the Nastikas, their line of thinking was, there is nothing existent. Everything is shunya. So, Atma is shunya, things like that. But then, Shankaracharya was trying to figure out, how is it shunya? It is not. So then he gets the thing saying, who is it that is saying it is shunya? Who is that? There is that is you. That is how he brought in the concept of Advaita. Otherwise, Shunyavadis, the Buddha and all his followers, they are the Shunyavadis. They say, no, everything is empty. Everything is empty.
Empty, yes.
But who is it that is saying that it is empty? That is you. So, which is why he says, it is not just, it is absolutely free from time. In other words, eternal. See, Brahman is neither Sat nor Asat. If it is neither Sat nor Asat, it can only be myself.
Myself, that is you.
Very profound it is. We will repeat it again tomorrow. But
I think this is the crux of complete, telling that Atma is you. This argument, very, 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 very. Therefore, it is very confusing to understand also.
We'll have to follow the train of logic when that is with that understanding. And I think as we keep repeating it, that is why Paunena Shravanam Kuryat.
Yeah. And ultimately he says it is with the sound.
The Shabda Pramana.
Shabda Pramana. Ultimately.
See, because it is the Shabda is the Pramana, though it operates in the mind alone can arrive at it, since it is not an object of inference. It creates the vritti in the buddhi, which leads to the ignorance of Atma being Brahman.
Very nice. I think we should repeat this.
Yeah.
And what is like the Akhandakara vritti? It is just the name, no? Akhandakara vritti. Yeah. Akhandakara vritti is the vritti of that Atma, but we do not have this, or we have this. It's still
we are that, but the Shastra gives us that Akhandakara vritti. So to know the Atma, the mind has to reverse itself. When it turns towards Atma, it disappears in the sense that the mind is nothing but vrittis, and the vritti with which Atma is known has no form. Akhandakara vritti.
But still, why we are calling it vritti when it does not have like that? The vritti which is describing Atma, it has no form. Still, it is being named as Akhandakara vritti.
No, it is a reflection, actually.
Because that is the only thing that is. That is when for us to understand, they've got to give it some name, isn't it?
Okay.
But that is what when Ramana Maharshi says, you go on asking yourself, who am I? Who am I? That small I merges with the big I. That big I is this Akhandakara vritti. Not really a vritti in the sense of a vritti as a thought that comes and goes.
It vanishes.
It is the only thing that exists. That is it. Nothing else is.
That is why it is called Akhandakara. It cannot be broken.
Correct. Akhandakara. Limitless.
Yeah.
Akhandakara. Even just thinking about this is so elevating. Just imagine how it would be to recognize that. What we know it right now is only as a concept. It's still not our experience.
We have to thank Shankara. Really,
that
I tell you.
is created by Vedanta Vakya. That is why we come back to the Vedanta. That is why the Shruti is important. That is why just practice of pranayama is not enough. Which is what Gurudev very clearly says. He says, by doing this, you are not going to attain moksha. It will not. Very clearly he says. So, knowledge, that is why these are like two wings. We have knowledge on one side and all these practices, which includes the practice and cultivation of all these qualities. Amanitvam, adambitvam. So that is one wing. And the other wing is knowledge. So with these two, you can fly towards.
I think that is one karma yoga, one jnana yoga.
Yeah.
And that is why, we have been experiencing more, like the meditation has increased from last 2 years. So it is because of this knowledge, like we are working upon ourselves on all these qualities and doing that initially when we were doing that sadhana or meditations, the quality has improved, definitely. And the more you remain more at peace, and that serenity, it stays with you, no?
Yeah.
In meditation you are more you are more thoughtless than initially we were. So uh, it is like the layers are being removed slowly, all the ignorance, and of course.
Yeah.
And yesterday, Nanaji was telling, in that Upanishad, the person who is enlightened will not say that I have been enlightened. And for others, they look like fools,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mudavat.
So, Moodam, that's such a profound, And if you read some charitra of Swamiji's, they have gone through all this. They were called fools.
Even Sai Baba,
Yes,
Shirdi Sai Baba was
that is what I'm telling.
considered a
And
madman.
even our Siddhartha Swami was called mad, and he was beaten by stones and all that. Hey, mad, like that, And many such instances. So when you read those charitra, they give the instances all like this. That is how they have gone through it. And now we are understanding all the Upanishads. We have been told the charitras, and that has ingrained in me actually. I was born in Hubli, and in Hubli, Sri Siddhartha Swami was there. And my father was reading every year the Charitra in Shravana Masa. So that was actually has been ingrained in me, that how he left the house and how he made his body tapa and the jnana, and then how he came and how he was called as a murkha, by many people. They used to say, murkha so patuttu utakodi, means you give him some food, he is full. And he remained, and later on he became such a saint. Very good. Very, very nice. Such everything is falling in place. We are very, very lucky to have such explanation given. And to write all such explanation also needs such a big jnana. So good, really. And we should thank Shankara for how he achieved all that. Very, very nice.
Thank the Sampradaya, Guru Shishya Parampara, and
Parampara.
Yeah.
Very good.
We'll stop here today. We'll continue tomorrow.
Thank you, Jai Gurudev. I have joined after so many days. I was around. We were moving around. I could not join with people, but I was in the knowledge. Therefore, I could get immediately whatever you were telling. So it's all falling in place.
Yeah.
Jai Gurudev.
Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishnarpanamastu.